Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast, covering parks, public lands, and historic landmarks across America and around the world. Welcome, everybody. It is August 25th, 2024, and today we are celebrating the anniversary of our National Park Service. It is known as Founders Day because this is the date back in 1916 when President Woodrow Wilson signed what is now called the Organic Act to establish the National Park Service. The National Park Service began in our country, America, and inspired many countries around the world to set aside land and protect and preserve it for future generations just like we did. Today, America's National Park Service protects over 400 park units, and we can talk about parks like national parks all the way to national monuments, historical parks, national seashores. There's also trails like the Pony Express National Historic Trail. There's scenic byways. There's parkways like the Blue Ridge Parkway. So there are over 400 of them within our country, and they are in all 50 states, U.S. territories, D.C., and our parks span over 84 million acres. Woo, it's exciting. Today's show, we are speaking with travel writer Lisa Evans about Gulf Islands National Seashore. Innkeepers Tiffany Bertram, Steve and Karen Wilson talk about their local parks, Hot Springs National Park and Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Innkeeper Maria Chamberlain talks about her local park, which is St. Gaudens National Historical Park in New Hampshire. And then to talk about how our park service inspired other countries, we hop the pond over to England to speak with Glenn Burrows, who talks about national parks in his backyard. To plan your national park adventure, check out our site, nationalparktraveling.com. There are articles and podcasts and puzzles. There's magazines to read. There's so much on that site to help you plan your adventure. Happy traveling! So when we get to talk with Lisa Evans, it means usually that we are going to coastal Mississippi. Lisa loves Mississippi. She's even written a book about coastal Mississippi. And I encourage you, if you go anywhere in Mississippi, to get it. It is called 100 Things to Do in Coastal Mississippi Before You Die. She's also a travel writer, and she not only travels the country, but also around the world. So keep up with her. Go to writerlisa.com. And today she's going to be part of our National Park Service celebration, talking about one of her backyard National Park Service units, which happens to be a national seashore, which I love because we always think, NPS, the National Park Service, national parks, but there are so many different kinds of parks, from monuments to trails to seashores. So welcome back, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I hope the same for you.
Oh, always doing good and excited to hear about the national park in your backyard, because I've been to part of it, because I believe I went to part of it in Florida. So
Yes.
It does stretch over, doesn't it?
It does. It's called the Gulf Islands Natural Seashore, and it does encompass some of Florida and, of course, our barrier islands. If you're familiar at all with coastal Mississippi, or even just can picture it on the map, we are literally right along the Gulf of Mexico, and we are sheltered by the barrier islands. One of those islands is called Ship Island, or West Ship Island officially. Locally, it's called Ship Island, and that is part of the Gulf Islands Natural Seashore. And it's a beautiful day trip from Gulfport, Mississippi. There's a ferry service that takes you over. It's called the MS Ship Island Ferry. And you can only get there by ferry or private boat. So obviously, if you have a private boat, you can go to Ship Island as well. But usually when I go, because I don't have a boat, I take the ferry over, and it's just a fabulous trip. It's 12 miles off. It's 12 miles off the shore of Gulfport or Ship Island.
Oh, wow. So you get on a ferry, go over, and then you're part of the national seashore. And this seashore, like you're saying, goes Florida, Mississippi, and there's all these barrier islands. When you get to that island, because now you don't have a car, right? Or are you taking your car?
No, you don't have a car. Basically, you don't need it because realistically, Ship Island, if you want some of the best beaches, it's just absolutely beautiful. Because again, remember there's a section between our coastline and the Barrier Islands that's an estuary called the Mississippi Sound. The water's kind of murky and brackish, but it's great for fresh seafood. But when you get out to Ship Island, the other side of the island is literally the Gulf of Mexico, and it's beautiful. It's the colors. It's just beautiful. The ferry goes out twice a day in summertime, so you can catch it at like 9 o'clock. I think the first one's at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you can catch another one like midday. And then they start coming back. So usually you can either come back at like 2 or 5, I believe. So you go out and back, and then, you determine how long you want to stay on the island. Depending upon, it's just a great little day trip. It's beautiful for tourists. They absolutely love it. Last time I was out there, it was just the coolest thing. I was swimming, and there's minnows, and I saw a shark off in the distance, and there's the rays, and it's just the coolest thing. And the other really neat thing about Ship Island is there's a place called Fort Massachusetts. And that has a history. I mean, if you're a history buff, which Lisa, you know that I am.
You love, yeah.
I love history, and Fort Massachusetts is over on Ship Island, and it's just the really cool place to see and learn the history of how it was utilized in the Civil War, and it's got cannons that are remnants from the war. The tour, you have a guide. The National Park Service has guides out there, and I don't know, you could spend 15 minutes in there, you could spend an hour in there just looking around. It's just it's really a cool spot, and then you keep going and you're on the beach, and you can rent umbrellas, and you can rent the beach chairs, and just hang out on the beach all day long. It's wonderful.
And you can bring your own cooler and whatever food you pack it in.
You can bring a cooler, but I mean, one thing that I have learned, and this is the first time I went out rookie move, I brought a cooler and a chair and this, that, and the other thing, because I was like, I'm not going to rent a chair I can carry. Well, it's a bit of a hike from where you come in on the dock to where the beach actually is. And so you're hauling your chair, and you're hauling your cooler, and you're hauling this, that, and the other thing. So rookie mistake, I learned. I rent the beach chair and beach umbrella, so I don't carry that. I do take a small cooler of water and stuff. They do have a concession area on there. They have a concession area. So, I mean, is it going to cost you a few bucks? Sure it is, but you're not being a pack mule and carrying all this stuff across the beach, because, it doesn't seem like it's because you come in on one side, and pretty much you're walking across the island to get to the Gulf of Mexico, where the beautiful, pristine beaches are. And they have a boardwalk, so it's not like you're walking in sand and whatnot, but it's still a little bit of a haul, especially if you're carrying, and kids love it. So, if you're a young parent or a parent that's got little kids, you know how much stuff you have to haul when you have kids. So, like I said, rookie mistake. Now I rent the beach chair and beach umbrella, and I buy at the concessions. It's just a whole lot easier.
That is a good point. I mean, because when you go to places like this, you really kind of like, what should I do? My important thing is I want ice cream when I get there. Like, that's it. So that was my worry, was ice cream.
Yeah, I know what? I'm not certain if they have ice cream at the concessions. I know I've had one there, but I don't remember if they had ice cream. But like, I'll bring a little, like, small with extra water, because of course you want to stay hydrated, especially in the heat. And if I can bring 3-4 bottles of water in a small little container, that's cool. I'll bring my food, and I'll eat at the concessions.
Yeah. And I mean, you could pack an ice cream sandwich in there.
There you go.
Cool. Yeah. See, to me, that's the way to go. That's the smartest thing to go. But it's still going to be messy. But we don't care. You can get in the water, swim it off.
There you go. Exactly.
Or you have your ice cream when you get to the other side, because you're still on the beach. That's kind of how it is. So you can I don't know. I just want an ice cream sandwich, and I want it now. I just went into child mode ever since you said, parents and kids. But I love that you brought up history, because this is something also about our National Park Service. we have over 420 plus parks within the National Park Service. And I think it's 2/3 or 3/4 of them are actual historic sites and monuments. And monuments are not just like, here's a monument sculpture or statue. We're talking about entire parks.
Yes.
And so a lot of times when we're preserving our natural history, we're also preserving human and cultural history. And forts are so fascinating.
They really are. And this one, I mean, you walk up a spiral staircase and you can go up on top and you can see exactly what they were seeing as it's definitely well worth the visit. And it's like you said, the guides, the National Park Service has some of the best guides there, and they're just so cool and they're so knowledgeable. I mean, when I did the tour, I usually do it like every other time I go out just to refresh, and they're just so cool, and they just a fountain of information. They're very, I know that's probably they're an under I won't say undervalued, but they don't get the accolades that they should as the guides that are at these. They love history. That's their job. And it's just really cool to listen to them.
I agree. I mean, we call them the rock stars of the parks, and some of them are cute.
The other really cool thing about that is you can walk along. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can sit in your chair and umbrella, but if you walk along the beaches, there's so many shorebirds. I mean, there's just all different kinds. That. I mean, you can see anything you see blue crabs in the water, and you see the and of course the name escapes me, but as far as the shorebirds, but there's also many.
Like the plovers and.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the really pelicans.
Cool. Yep. Oh, pelicans. Yeah. We have a lot of pelicans down here. We do.
Oh, I love the pelicans. And this year, Nancy and I got to go to Padre Island National Seashore in Texas. And it was just cool to see you've got the white pelican, the American brown pelican, and they're beautiful, man. They're just so gorgeous. And you watch all those little the birds. I mean, when you talk about, you've got the plovers and you've got, I've seen vultures on the beach eating.
Yeah. I mean, with the least terns and the big terns and the great. Yeah. And you even see eagles out there just, floating on the currents. It's really cool.
And seagulls. I love seagulls. Oh, yes. Are they not the most hysterical bird? Like, seriously, they're characters.
Well, and plus when you have people that feed them, even though they're supposed to be feeding them, they just they don't give up. They're relentless.
They are, and they're just so squawky and cool. Mm-hmm. But I love that you've got the history and the natural beauty all in one, and then you go on a ferry, so it's like a real outing,
And you can see dolphins. You see dolphins on the way over. They're real cool.
Oh, really? I want to go. And the mantas, like you're saying. Okay. Yeah. I need to go to the beach now. Thank you for that. And that's the thing, everyone. I think we have 10 national seashores within our National Park Service. I could be wrong, but it's around that. And they're just, this is about protecting that coastline. I mean, we only have one coastline. Yes, it may wrap around the continent, right? But, the Gulf of Mexico is special too. That Gulf. We've got to keep it clean.
Yes.
And, I think do whatever we can when we go there to be good stewards. But really, the national seashores, they protect webs of life, turtles, all kinds of things. If you look at all the way around, So, go if you can. Everyone keep up with Lisa at writerlisa.com. We're going to have links in the episode notes that link over to articles she's done and places that she recommends that you take a look at to plan your visit. Thanks, Lisa.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.
We're here at Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast, which is in Bismarck, Arkansas. And Bismarck was an old mine. And so where we are your property is the old mine. You are the town, right, Tiffany?
Yeah. I don't know that we're the town, but yes, the mine is on our property.
So you get to be a town.
Right. our own little town.
You've got your own little town with how many bedrooms for your guests? Three wonderful bedrooms, suites for the guests. And we come to Tiffany's Bed and Breakfast every year. We'd come here even more often if we could even. We love it here.
We'd let you.
I know. And we get to have Bob's Brownies and your wonderful breakfasts. And it is gorgeous. So there is an old mine on the property, but it's 60 acres that we're on, right?
Right.
Which is beautiful. And you're, 15 minutes from Hot Springs National Park?
Yep.
So it's easy, and it's a gorgeous drive. You have a lot of horses, like,
we do.
all in the, is this like
Hot Springs is a racing town also.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. Live racing, December through first weekend of May every year.
Wow. Is that why part of the mob were hanging out here too?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it is.
I was telling someone the other day that Hot Springs was a mob town, and they're like, what? I was like, yeah, there was baseball and the mafia. That was a big deal.
Mob, prohibition, you got it. Got it all here.
But you're also a community that, like Hot Springs, the city itself, is actually part of the national park, which is unique. I don't think we have that many.
Not many, no.
Mm-mm. And then at the same time, you have a brewery inside.
In the national park.
In the national park itself.
The only brewery in a national park and the only brewery in the world to use thermal water to brew their beer.
And it's good beer.
It's good beer. They've been around for several years now.
So Hot Springs, what I read about and we've talked about on shows before, is that it was almost like the first national park.
It was.
But not declared a national park at that time. That's kind of the
national park system didn't exist.
Okay.
So in 1832, Andrew Jackson declared it a national reservation so that they could protect the thermal water. And then when the National Park Service came into existence, they added Hot Springs as a national park. But yeah, we claim to be the first national park.
But now you are like the spa city.
Right.
Spa City, because that's the thermal waters, hence the hot springs.
Yeah.
But the bathhouses are part of it. So that's a unique activity for folks coming here, is to actually be able to go in the bathhouses.
Yes. The average temperature of the thermal water is 144 degrees. So
whoa,
you would not want to go hop in a little creek in Hot Springs. So they pipe it into the bathhouses and they cool the water off a little bit. And then you get to go into the bathhouse and get a massage and all the spa services and really get pampered.
That's really different for a national park.
It is.
So that's what led to the baseball people coming. Was that because they were supposed to be cleaning up and getting healthier and cleaner and all that, but that's not what they were doing.
Yeah. The Chicago White Stockings, I believe, were the first team that came down here. They thought, it's a little warmer weather than Chicago, and we will dry our players out from the off season and get them hiking up the hills. And the water was purported to have healing properties, so they thought, we'll bring our players down here and we'll get them ready for regular season. Not realizing that there was a horse track and casinos and all kinds of stuff for the ball players to kind of get in trouble with.
Yeah, shenanigans. And so booze was probably flowing here because of the mafia.
Oh, yes.
During Prohibition.
Definitely.
Who are some of the dudes from the mafia that we could think of that were here? Was Lucky Luciano here?
Lucky Luciano was here.
I think, you know what, the mafia, they were all here.
They all.
Capone was here, I think.
Al Capone was a big one.
Yeah.
Madden, I'm forgetting his first name.
But
the guy that started Las Vegas.
Siegel. Yeah.
They say he came here to train and learn how to start casinos and everything. So, and then he went to start Las Vegas. So, yeah, quite an interesting history.
So there's actually like a museum within the national park itself where people can go.
It's just across the street from the national park. It's called the Gangster Museum of America.
Oh.
And very interesting, all kinds of memorabilia for the mob.
So the Hot Springs itself, the national park, there's hiking. Nancy and I, there's scenic drives. There's the watchtower.
Yep.
That huge tower that people go up.
Yep.
You can walk up there if you want, right?
You can if you want,
Whoa.
but I recommend taking the elevator.
I do too. It's pretty high up there. So
26 miles of hiking trails, and a couple scenic drives as well.
So a lot of hiking, there's spas, there's a brewery, there's a lot of shopping downtown too that you can do, which is all kind of connected.
Definitely.
A lot of good food.
Good food in the huts. The brewery that we were talking about, Superior Bathhouse Brewery, also has excellent food. They've got an outdoor beer garden with hot dogs and
Fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
We always want a little bit of a hot dog. We do. So everyone, Hot Springs National Park, definitely put it on your list. A lot of activities, a lot of outdoors, a lot of festivals throughout the year too.
Absolutely.
So it's just really different. So, and mountain biking. That was the other thing I wanted to bring up because your area is really well known for mountain biking.
Is huge in the Hot Springs area. One of the national park trails actually connects with the mountain biking trails.
The other part is Lake Hamilton and the lakes around here. So I wanted to touch on that. So for people that want to go kayaking and even like here, is it Lake DeGray or DeGray's Lake?
DeGray Lake, Lake Hamilton, Lake Washita, Lake Catherine.
Oh, so a lot of water.
Are all within 15 to 20 miles of us.
And you won't boil in that water.
You won't boil in the lakes, no.
But wait, okay, so downtown Hot Springs, there's like a faucet thing that people can go and get water.
Yes.
And so they've cooled it down?
There are like at least 7 or 8 of them. Some of them are even cold water fountains. Most of them are hot water fountains. And yeah, they're free. You can go fill up as much water as you want. A lot of people in Hot Springs use that as their drinking water. They'll bring buckets and buckets.
Does it taste better?
We love it.
Your water here tastes amazing.
Yeah. I think all the water around here is great.
So it's probably really good for moonshining at
yes, we have a moonshine distillery in Hot Springs as well.
How have we missed that?
I don't know. How have you?
Well, Nancy, we need to stay another day. All right. Well, everybody go to tiffany'sbedandbreakfast.com and learn more about Tiffany and Bob here. If you love birds and nature, this is a place for you. If you love brownies and good breakfast, you like a country setting, you want to go hiking in the morning right here on the property. And you've got the state park where you can go dig for your own diamonds.
Yes.
Which
Crater
is
of
super
Diamond
cool.
State Park is 45 minutes away.
Not bad.
And we'll give you the buckets and shovels and all the tools you need to hopefully find that diamond.
And you've got a wonderful fire pit out there, and you've got those massive s'mores sticks. Those are pretty big. You could kill somebody with one of those.
Well, you don't want to burn this hair off your arm.
No, I don't want to. No, I'm not into that. My eyebrows could use it, but anyway. But everyone, tiffany'sbedandbreakfast.com. Hot Springs is beautiful, and it's beautiful year round out here too.
It is. It really is.
And so you get the fall colors.
We do.
Yeah.
About early November typically, so it's later than a lot of people think.
And it's still a good birding time, bird watching, because you get bald eagles and things like that.
Oh, yeah. We get year-round birds. The hummingbirds are plentiful right now.
Yeah, they are amazing. And the cardinals, the hummingbirds, oh my. You have buntings, blue jays, bluebirds. Oh, it's gorgeous here. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you.
And thank you, Bob, for the brownies. So we're talking about our national parks today on Big Blend Radio, and of course we're going to go to Smoky Mountain National Park. We are actually here with our friends Steve and Karen, who own and run the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast in the heart of the Montfort Historic District in Asheville, North Carolina. So they are right outside the Blue Ridge Parkway, and every time we come here, we go out traveling with you both and go do that and see the mountains, the butterflies, the wildflowers, the fall colors. We've seen icicles on the parkway. But I think it was maybe the second or third time we came here. Nancy and I drove up from Florida. We went to Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, and which is connected to Cape Canaveral.
Very nice.
National Seashore, and drove up to Smoky Mountains, and you guys gave us some good advice on where to see elk, because it was the fall, it was the beginning, and we went from Smoky Mountain National Park and drove the parkway to you, and we saw awesome fall colors, got some great shots. It was still even at the beginning, but the elk were out. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit, how far was that? We weren't that far from you, maybe an hour and a bit, 2 hours?
Not even.
Yeah.
Cataloochee Valley is about 45 minutes away.
Oh, wow, from
So
the
it's-
end?
yeah,
Really?
it's
That's not
it's
bad.
not that bad. It's really not so many miles, but it's mountain roads.
Yeah, when
so
you
it's a
get in
little
the curvy
curvy, a
part.
little
Slow.
slow going.
I
so-
think it just took time because we didn't, like, just drive. We kept
Exactly.
getting out, right?
There were
Yeah.
things to see.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, well, who's in a hurry on a mountain pass?
Oh,
like
yeah,
this? Is things
absolutely.
to see.
Yeah, and all the fall colors, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and so we're getting to that time.
We are
Yeah.
getting there, absolutely,
Yep.
almost there.
Where do the fall colors come in first in this area?
In the higher elevations, I would say about an hour, hour and a half away
Yeah.
usually, and that'll start at the end of September, early October, and things will start coming down towards us more.
Is that more in the east?
It'll be more to the
South.
north and south.
Yeah.
Oh.
North and south.
That's where
okay.
we go anyways.
We have a couple spots that we go in the north and the south. Usually the south is actually first.
Yeah, elevation's a little higher, I think, in those spots.
Exactly. It's one of the highest parts of the parkway.
Yeah.
So that's why it'll be the first to change.
6,000 feet, I'd say, is the average.
When this was late September, I think we
Yeah.
came in, and there were fall colors,
Right.
a little bit of rain. It was drizzling when we came
Yeah.
in, and the leaves were falling, and I was like, "Oh, this is the real stuff, man!" I remember I was like, "Dude!" And then there was like a sugar mill or something that we went to, and there was Cades Cove, I think, with all the historic houses, and like there was homes. It's like a community out there too.
Yeah.
So people live kind of within the park. Am I right with that? Where was I?
I think you're thinking Cherokee.
Oh,
That is Cherokee, I think, where it's
Well,
got
I
a bunch
think
of
there's-
historic cabins and then the mill, Mingus Mill.
Yeah.
A waterfall out there. That's the Cherokee Reservation area. That's the end of the
Yeah, the
Blue
Grist
Ridge
Mill.
Parkway that ends at the Great Smoky Mountains
National
on
Park.
on the North Carolina
Yeah, I
side.
think you reminded me. It is
Yeah.
Great Smoky Mountain National
So-
Park. So you have the Great Smoky Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and then Black Mountain. So these are all connected.
They're all basically Appalachia.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just
You throw in
different
Appalachia. You better say Appalachia, not
Yeah,
Yeah, say it right. So Smoky
Appalachian stuff.
Mountain National Park goes North Carolina and Tennessee.
correct.
But from your side, so 45 minutes you're there, and you can see in the park, that's where
Yeah.
you can see elk. If you're
Exactly,
lucky.
exactly. They reintroduced them back in the 70s. I don't remember what year exactly, but in the 70s, because the population had been hunted out. They brought them in from several different
I
areas.
think Colorado mainly.
And Canada, I think, were the
Canada,
two
yeah.
areas.
We spoke to a fellow who actually helped with that program, or helps with that program.
Yeah,
Oh,
one of the
they're still
rangers.
doing it.
Yeah, so I think
Exactly. So they started with a few, and that herd is over 200 now.
We saw some,
So,
and we were so lucky to see them. We were like,
It's
oh,
very
remember we
cool.
saw the mama and the
Yes,
babies?
it's
See,
very
that's awesome.
cold.
And then you saw the males standing by, like, don't
Yeah.
you mess with,
Uh-huh.
don't get too close.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, it's good to get to the point where you realize that you can't shoot everything every time you see something.
Yeah.
That you have to regulate what you're doing to the birth rate of the animals that are left.
Well, I think our National Park Service, that's why there's the highest protection.
Yeah.
So you have national forests, wildlife refuges,
Right.
and everything that kind
Yeah.
of balances that out between human recreation and
Yes.
then there's management style of things as well.
Right.
But the National Park Service is the highest grade of regulation we have
Yeah.
in the country and in the world,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing.
It
They're
is. It
really
is,
good
absolutely.
at what they do.
They are. I
agree.
mean, Smoky
Really
Mountains.
are.
I always think it's amazing because you get the nature and the history at the same time, and people get
Yes.
to do stuff. But there's wilderness as well. So is there
Absolutely.
wilderness in Smoky Mountains too, where people can go?
Sure.
There's
Off-
campgrounds.
yeah.
There's a lot of different trails. Definitely, all kinds of things. There's a lot of streams, so trout fishing, fly fishing. Definitely, all kinds of different outdoors activities.
So
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite places?
So,
Well, yeah, of course, Cataloochee.
Cataloochee.
There's some trails outside of there, like the Boogerman Trail is really cool.
You just wanted to say Booger
Yeah, I wanted
Man.
to say that.
You wanted to say Booger Man.
You know he did.
Yeah.
But, Deep Creek and Big Creek are really nice trails. You get some
Good.
waterfall. They're basically waterfall hikes, but you can find a lot of interesting wildflowers. It just and
They
it's
kind of
just
start
very
in
picturesque.
April, right?
Mhm,
April.
exactly.
And
April.
the firefly,
Yep.
there's like fireflies.
There's
in the sun.
fireflies in parts of the Smoky Mountains, and that's going to be more summer, I think, June-ish
And you got butterflies.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Butterflies, salamanders.
Oh, we can't. How could we not
Salamanders.
bring up the salamanders? Steve is sitting here.
I was surprised I did. Not
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
really cool.
They
are very
Insects.
cool.
So, an F is a baby newt or a baby salamander?
Baby newt.
Newt.
See, newts like water more than
Yeah,
Yeah.
newts.
Yes.
Yeah.
they like water.
They have gills, I think.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
those red spotted newts do.
okay, here we go. And then
Yeah.
there's the hell thing, the hell
Hellbender.
The hellbender.
Hellbender, that's the big one.
That's
Yep.
the big one.
That's like the chuckwalla of the
Yep,
of
exactly.
the salamanders or newts.
Yep.
Salamander.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's something unique that you don't see everywhere across the country. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's only in the east.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. And so then the fishing part, the fly fishing and everything. So the waterways are very important to here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So the waterfalls you have, but it's like I'm so used to the West where it's all from the frozen stuff. Is that the same thing for here? Like frozen rivers bringing that in? Or is it just normal rivers? Because you get snow and ice,
Yeah,
but
we do.
it's a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different.
I think it's most from just the watershed, a lot of it, the way
Right.
the mountains are. And
Yeah.
I think that's some of it's from the snow. But for the most part, we get a lot of rain out here, too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's constantly being fed one way or another.
But you got into the water just not too
Yeah, I
long
did.
ago in that
It's
waterfall
cold.
area, and it looked like it was cold.
It was cold, yeah.
It's cold, all right.
Yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah.
That's cold. So
Yeah.
summer dipping, but I know people like to go
Well, they do.
dipping in the waterfalls out here, right?
Oh,
That's
sure.
kind of magical. That's a thing to do.
It is.
So, do they let you do that in the national park and Great Smoky Mountains? I don't know.
No, I'm not sure.
That
if
I'm
that's
not sure.
allowed
We
or
haven't
not.
tried
We
in the
haven't tried
national
ourselves.
park.
It's mostly Pisgah National Forest, like
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pisgah
exactly.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
Well, you can check that on their websites before you go.
yes, and that's a
If
good
that's
thing.
your goal, then
Exactly.
Everybody go to nps.gov. That website, you can find any national park you want to go to, national monument, seashore. I mean, like I was talking about Cape Canaveral. And Cape Canaveral, you can take your shirt off if you want and show your whatevers. No, they have a nudie beach. So, I mean, at that one, if they warn you, like, you may not want to bring your kids, or maybe they're used to it. Every place is different.
Yeah.
So,
alrighty then.
well, we are talking to Mr. and Mrs. Wild. I think they can handle this conversation, but it's a true thing. Clothing optional. It's one of those few parks that we have that have a beach where you can,
Yeah.
Well, I just have
be
to
selective
say
in your clothing.
the water's going to be cold, so
I don't know on the Space
beware.
Coast. Who
Cape
knows?
Canaveral may not be too cold.
Not too cold,
here
but
is
out
another
here
story.
you may not want to. Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah. Anyway, so
I could
great.
be George Costanza.
I
right
know.
now,
Okay,
but I'll
shrinkage.
just say it.
Ah, we just went there, didn't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
Well, there it is, everybody. Enjoy your national parks and wear your shorts.
Please.
Everybody, keep up with Steve and Karen at the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast. Go to lion-rose.com. Also, they co-host the Big Blend Radio Adventures in Asheville podcast every first Tuesday. So catch up with that at bigblendradio.com. We always talk about Pisgah National Forest, Pisgah. We talk about Smoky Mountains. We talk about all the mountains. Always talk about nature, the events, the festivals, beer, all that good stuff because it is Beer City, USA.
Absolutely.
Music, all of that. So keep up with us on that. So all the links, as always, are in the episode notes. Thanks for listening. Welcome, everyone. You know, we are going to be talking more about national parks, and today we are going to New Hampshire to chat with Maria Chamberlain, who is the innkeeper and co-owner of the Inn at Oxbow Acres in the community of Milan. I think that's how you pronounce it, but you could go to the website. It's oxbowacresnh.com. So welcome back, Maria. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And it is it Milan? Milan? It's Milan.
It's Milan. Yeah,
I'll get
Milan.
it. Milan.
So,
I remember
I
you on
guess
You said Milan.
historically, yeah, I think a lot of towns in New England, there's Paris, Maine, there's all kinds of European city names, but during World War I just learned this from a guest. During World War I, it was patriotic to change the pronunciation. So Milan is next to Berlin, which used to be called, Berlin and Milan, but they changed it so that the accent was on the first syllable, Berlin. So that was it was because of World War One.
Huh. I had no clue. How
Yeah.
cool. There's some good history. So today you're going to be representing the art world. And this is what's so cool about these shows. For the National Park Service anniversary, which is August 25th. So it's so interesting to see the different kinds of parks and what history or nature they represent. And it looks like St. Gaudens National Historic Site, which is in Cornish, right, New Hampshire. This
Right.
is your only National Park Service unit, right, that I believe in the state. And it looks beautiful. I mean, I know it's St. Gaudens, and it's about Augustus, who is an incredible sculptor. But when I look at this, I'm like, the gardens, it should be St. Gardens. The gardens look beautiful there.
They are beautiful, and goodness, I actually went this week
Oh,
to go again, and the grapevines are growing over a portico of the house, and they frame the grapes frame Mount Escutney that you can see in the distance, and just the grapes hanging down and the flowers everywhere, and it's just gorgeous in the fields.
oh.
You walk there, and as I was walking, the scent of an herb, it was like, I could smell everything while I was walking, and I looked down and I was walking on creeping thyme, and it just smelled so good, like every sense, your sight, and then hearing the birds and seeing everything, and it was just beautiful.
That is cool to have the gardens, and then also to look at his sculpture work. I mean, Augustus St. Gaudens is known a lot for. He did a lot of equestrian sculptures, but also he did a lot representing Abraham Lincoln. It looks like that he was
Yes.
known for as well.
Yep, there's a gigantic Abraham Lincoln statue right when you go in, and then there's like a bust of him in another little enclave, and it's just the detail and the expressions that he could capture, and they're so real. It's kind of haunting the way they kind of look back at you, and you can just see the soul that went into creating that, and then the ones that show movement, like the wind blowing a cape, or a horse, just showing the energy and forward motion, is incredible that he could do that.
Wow. And he did teach, and he met his wife, who was an art student, and his wife is a distant cousin of Winslow Homer, the artist. Isn't that wild? Like
Yeah.
gossip. Her name was Augusta Homer, and everyone, I'm cheating here because I've not been there. Nancy and I have not done that yet, but we will. But this is because of artist Victoria Chick, who's on our shows all the time, has a wonderful article that covered his work and also the historical park. So I think it's so cool to have that, because it seems like in your region, New Hampshire, and then even like Connecticut, they have, Weir is there with his farm, the Weir Farm. So it seems that the arts are, well, I mean, there really was a big art movement back east in the Northeast.
Mhm.
And then people moved, out to the West. And I find it fascinating that a lot of your parks really focus on not just history, but the arts, which is pretty cool to see, because that's
Well, it was
the
really
unique
the
thing.
arts that brought. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The arts is what brought the tourism industry to the Northeast.
Hmm.
There was actually in the White Mountains, like nobody knew about the White Mountains except the Native Americans and the settlers who struggled to eke out a living here. But there was an accident where there was a landslide, and there was this family, the Willie family, lived in this cabin over in Crawford Notch. And the cabin, behind the cabin was this huge boulder. So a landslide began, and everybody ran out of the house, and they all perished. But if they had stayed in the house, all the debris and everything coming down from the mountain, hit the rock and went
Wow.
around it. So the house stayed standing, and
Wow.
the family perished. And so So, back then for news, they had people come sketch pictures, and then artists came. They wanted to see this incredible mountain where this happened, and they were captivated by the beauty of the White Mountains. So more artists came and started painting, and it was all during the same era, really, in the, pre-Civil War and through the 1900s. And all of a sudden, tourism began to boom, and people were coming from Boston and New York, and hotels were going up so that people could enjoy the beauty of the White Mountains. But it was a tragedy that brought the artist, and the artist brought the tourist.
Wow. And look at you go. Like, who knew this, right? This is why I always say, ask an innkeeper. They know everything about their region. How far is St. Gaudens National Historic Site from the inn?
From the inn, it's a jaunt. It's a good, close to 2.5 hours.
Oh, that's nothing.
You're going to the western part of the state, which was really so. Where this national park was actually the home of the Cornish colony, which was lots of artists came, sculptors, they apprenticed under him, and then a little further down on that same side of the state, you have like the Peterborough Art Colony and people in Dublin, where there's still lots of artists and lots of glass blowing and incredible things that you can see down there. It's kind of like a little art hub, nestled in the beauty of the New Hampshire countryside.
Wow, this is amazing when you think of it, huh? Really, mm-hmm. It is quite amazing. Just that the art colonies and, and then you do art at the end too, right? You had an art retreat there.
Well, actually, it's this week, so we're super excited, and it culminates in an art show next Sunday. And we're looking forward to it.
Wow. See, I always say good scenery, like beautiful nature, inspires art, right? I think nature, inspires music and writing. And, I think of like on Golden Pond, right? It does something to us, makes us have that spirit to create. So I love that. I love that I think you need another national park unit though. I'm just going to say, like, can't you create one? Come on. You got a beautiful area, I think you need another one. But at least you have
what
one.
That entails.
It's a lot, and it entails a lot. But how cool to have this art and these gardens, and just some of it just seems like, looking at the house, it looks like it's got beautiful wisteria and gladiolas, and oh man, is it open? Like, would you go there year round? Even in the winter, it should be open, right? It should.
I don't know. I'm not sure. They had beautiful walking trails besides the bronze reliefs and things that you could see in the statues. He used to get inspiration just by walking along this brook. So you kind of go down and hike around, and they're a couple of miles, maybe 2 or 3 miles around that you could walk around.
Okay, so it says, I'm on their site, and everyone, it's nps.gov/SAGA for St. Augustus. I'm going to get it all messed up, but SAGA, like saga, right? So nps.gov/saga, and that is linked in the episode notes. So when I'm on their website, and I always say, go to the park website before you visit. Nancy and I have done it a few times and not learned that lesson, where we thought, we could just go in and get a campsite, and it's 2 a.m. and no, you can't. No, the park is closed. You're going to sit in your car for a while. So, the operating hours and seasons, they say the park grounds and trails are open year round during daylight hours. However, the walkways are not maintained and may be icy or snow covered between November and May. But you can still go there. And then park buildings are open daily from Memorial Day weekend until Halloween. So check that out. So go check out the website before you go, but it looks glorious. And New Hampshire looks beautiful. You must love living there. It's just gorgeous from what I can tell. It's awesome.
It's a beautiful state.
Yeah. And look at everyone again. Go to oxbowacresnh.com to learn more about Maria's beautiful inn that her and her husband run. And you got a lot of acres out there, and you have equestrian facilities too, which is really cool. So it looks beautiful there. So go check them out year round, because you got snow pictures too.
Yes, we do. And we have access to a snowmobile corridor, so
fun.
you can you can ride right from the inn.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.
So America's National Park Service, it's celebrating its birthday, August 25th, as we all know, but is also the very first national park service in the world. And that spread out, to everywhere. Like when I was growing up in Kenya and South Africa, I thought, wow, Africa was the first. Well, I was so wrong. Had to come to the States to learn that. I also lived in England, and that's where we're going now, to Glenn over at Norfolk Tours. I'd encourage you to go to his website, norfolk-tours.co.uk. And I wanted Glenn to just give us a little insight about the National Park Service in England, because isn't the Lake District and all of that part of it is gorgeous, Glenn?
Oh yeah, the Lake District, I believe, was the first national park in England. And like you, I thought England had the first national parks as well. So, you thought South Africa did because you lived there. Well, I thought England did because I live here. But yeah, the Lake District's absolutely gorgeous. There's certain things in there where villages, you can drive through villages that actually look as if they haven't changed for 150 years. There's nothing in there that is out of place in a Dickens novel or a Beatrix Potter novel. Well, Beatrix Potter used to live in the Lake District, and her house actually is in the national park. So, them sorts of things are what you can come across. So, yeah, national parks in England are all over the place. Yeah, great.
And do you have them in Norfolk, where you are in East Anglia?
Well, we have something very much like a national park. It is called a national park, but it isn't exactly a national park because it hasn't got all the protection in place that a national park has. But it's the next best thing, and that is the Norfolk Broads. So that is our local sort of national park-ish, but it's not quite a national park. But there are quite a few in England, and they are just protected areas, the same I take it as they are in America. So there are so many regulations about what you can and can't do in a national park.
Yes, and national park is the highest level of protection. But then with the National Park Service in our country also protects things like the seashore. So we have national seashores, we have national monuments, we even have historic trails, which we've talked about with you before, because there's a lot of British ancestry. So we have, historic parks as well, forts and things like that you've been on shows with us for years where we've connected some of the ancestry of these people and their history and their legacy that's preserved in these places. So I find that fascinating. So maybe you have that same kind of thing where it's like the Norfolk Broads is still overseen by the National Park Service. I have no clue, but I think it's history and nature. So does that happen in England where it's not just the nature, it's also history? Yeah,
very much so. I mean, a lot of our buildings are protected by the National Trust, which is another organisation that mainly looks at buildings, but they also look at the estates that go with a building. So you often get a big house with acres and acres and acres of farmland that belong to the National Trust that is then looked after and managed properly. You've also got lots of things like English Heritage, which again looks after historical sites. And then you've got the Nature Conservancy Board that looks after some other natural sites. I think there's a big bird reserve on the Norfolk coast. I think the National Trust also runs that. So, the National Trust, the English Heritage, and the national parks, they all sort of work together and just make sure that some areas of England are not going to be ruined by building and mining or fracking or, whatever else.
And those are things you're worried about in your country, just like us?
Yeah, I mean, fracking, not so much, but I have heard about it. But mining, some areas are protected because of mines. Not in Norfolk. then other areas are protected.
Nothing bad happens in Norfolk. Just saying.
Not really. No, we're very lucky. And obviously, if someone wants to put a road through the middle of a national park, they're going to have a lot of difficulty to do it. So, and it's like buildings. If you want to build a great big house in the middle of a national park, you're not going to be able to do it. So there are lots of rules and regulations that come with a national park label. So, yeah, we've got national parks, and I could do a tour of the national parks of England if that's what you wanted to do.
I do. Oh, Glenn, we're coming. Yeah. And let's see. Can you give everyone one example of a national park that you've been to in England that people can go and see? Because you've got quite a good list, I think, of national parks, because you can go hiking. I know with guests, with what you do with your tour company, people say, hey, I want to go see this and this and that. And you will build it for them. It's according to their wants and needs, unless it's, really weird. But even Glenn might be interested. I know. Well, I don't know. I mean, America gets weird, but I'm just kidding. But is there a national park that you've been to recently that you can talk about for folks to know?
Let me think. I think the last one I went to was in Snowdonia, which is in Wales.
Yes.
There's sort of the mountains of northern Wales and right onto the coast. So, I mean, that was just so beautiful because Norfolk hasn't got any mountains. So for my wife and I, that was a really different sort of place to go to. And again, that is that's protected. So, when you're going to go there, you're not going to see all these great big electric cables flying through the sky. You're not going to see these monstrous cardboard hotels. You're not going, you're going to see nice countryside. You're going to see lots of these little ma and pa coffee shops and tea houses, and you're going to have a nice pub to go and have your lunch in, So when you go to a national park, you're going to see the nature, but as it's a protected area, you're also still going to see nice little villages with nice communities and lots of local businesses that are still surviving, because in a national park, they have the tourist trade, and the tourists, although they come, sometimes in a bus, they're there to spend money. So, I mean, you still get the local businesses that are thriving. So that's the sort of thing you get.
That's a little different than here in the States, because we'll have the national park, and inside the park, if you shop, it's a store that is usually run by a nonprofit that is raising money for the park. And then you have concessionaires. So the lodges are run by a company so that the government is not running the hotel, basically.
Right.
And so you do have concessionaires and people that are permitted to do things, but it's incredibly difficult to get that permit. And it's like they have to abide by so much red tape that when you go, you've got to give them hats off for being able to pull it off, because it's a lot of red tape, and it means that you will abide to all these very strict rules. Yeah. Now, the communities outside the parks are usually mom and pop shops. Like if you look at Sequoia National Park, you've met Donette, who's been on the show. You've met some of our friends from that area. Sequoia National Park in California, you step right outside that entrance, and you've got a town of Three Rivers. It's all little sandwich shops, ice cream shops, chocolate shops, art galleries, little bed and breakfasts, little hotels, little Airbnbs or vacation rental kind of things. So it's really protected in that way. So the Lake District, that is part of your National Park Service?
You see, the thing is, the different thing with England, our national parks were, I can't sort of explain what I mean, but if you can take
your houses were there first. Your home,
well,
your
exactly.
Village.
I'm trying to sort of explain it with my hands, and you can't see my hands. But if you've got a map in front of you with 5 or 6 villages on it that already exist, and they come and put a national park on top of that entire area, then you're going to have villages in the middle of the national park. So that's what you've got in England. You've got villages and even towns that are actually inside a national park.
Yes.
So you've already got the businesses there, and they can thrive because they're in a tourist area.
Now, and that we do have that. I mean, but it's just small compared to your makeup of that. So like we have heritage areas where it's the community and the National Park Service unite, and all the nonprofit organizations unite together to create an area as a heritage area. Yuma, Arizona is one of them. You've been on shows with Yuma.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah.
And so the downtown associations, the Chamber of Commerce, the visitor bureaus, all of that, the hotels, everyone get on board. They get on board together to protect an area, preserve, do conservation work. And it's really good because I think you get more community involvement, which makes sure like, hey, we're going to go help clean up the riverfront, the Colorado River in that case, right? And so there's more buy-in. And then the visitors coming in, there's more pride within the community, which is it's really cool. Detroit is one because of the car history. Detroit, Michigan. All of Detroit.
I thought Detroit was falling down, or have they're both built up?
No. So we got Fords, because of the electric car. A lot of these companies are doing electric cars, but Ford, historically, we wouldn't have road tripping in America if it wasn't for Henry Ford and Firestone going out together and some other people, Edison included, going out on road trips. And they started that back in 1913, 14, 15, taking road trips and realizing, we need to build this infrastructure for people to explore and travel. So it's really part of travel history. But Detroit has become a national heritage area. And now it's also a huge music region. Think about Motown and music. So that's also incorporated about cars and music. And think about that when we were all kids. Didn't we play loud music and freak out our parents? And, we'd drive up and down and certain roads and, talk to each other in cars. Did you do that in England? I think you did.
No, of course not.
Oh, come on. Tell the truth.
I didn't drive a car I had a motorbike when I was young.
Oh, well, excuse me. Well, they have music now, those motorbikes.
Well,
but I think this is so interesting talking about this preservation and understanding some of our national parks still have agricultural leases in between them.
Yeah, of course.
Joshua Tree National Park cannot charge because they have a main road that goes through it that people have been using for years as part of a commute. So, I mean, they ask you to please pay for your park pass, but you can, there's times where you can commuting hours I'm going to get in trouble, but I have a park pass. So I'm like permanently paid for forever, but you can buy one that's for all parks everywhere. So it's interesting about that because you can't you can't kick people out and say,
no. Well, half the thing is you need to encourage access, but you also need to control access because you don't want too many people to ruin what you're trying to protect.
Exactly.
But, it's a very happy balance. And luckily, I think most, if not all of our national parks seem to be working really well because although there are some parts of the Lake District that are pretty crowded in the summer, like Windermere itself, with the town.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But actually the rest of it is so big that, you get some areas that you can just go around and not see anybody. So it works.
I love this. Everyone, norfolk-tours.co.uk is Glenn's website. He's also got articles on nationalparktraveling.com showcasing England's parks and public lands, and we'll link to them in the episode notes. Thank you so much, Glenn. We'll see you soon at some point.
Indeed.
We'll get there.
Indeed, we will.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Parks and Travel podcast. Visit nationalparktraveling.com to plan your next park adventure and to see our Parks and Travel digital magazine. You can keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.